Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another DM's Guild review, my written and video review series. We'll take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. With this video, we'll be reviewing the seasonal monster book 12 More Christmas Sleighs, designed by the Holodanger team, which is Lucas Anderson, Lee Jack Weighill, and Tessa Klaire for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. This review has been sponsored by the publisher, and Lucas is a patron of the channel. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you're interested in a sponsored review, please reach out to me via email, Twitter, or Discord, or my submission form at roguewatson.com. And if you enjoy the content, consider using my affiliate links for your online shopping and supporting me via patreon.com/roguewatson. So this is the sequel, the follow-up to 12 Christmas Sleighs, which I reviewed, I think, 2 years ago at this point, and I've since reviewed several other of the Holodanger monster books, which include around a dozen different monsters themed to different seasonal holidays or events like Halloween and April Fool's Day. I think there was a summer one. And I haven't been all positive or all negative about them. I've kind of reviewed them each individually and really taken a deep dive into the various monsters and the themes that are used. And I think that my favorite overall is still probably the original Christmas book, because I also think it's probably the strongest theme and had just the best material to work with. And I was curious to see going into this one if it would be just kind of the equivalent of like a cash grab sequel and be like, oh, well, the first one was good, let's just try to come up with more monsters. Or if it was actually had, a compelling reason and enough material to create another dozen monsters. And thankfully, I'm going to tell you it is the latter. I'm actually very, very impressed with this book. It has the exact same production value and detail that I really enjoyed from all the Holodanger books. But more importantly, I think the monsters themselves are really clever, well designed, and have some really cool ideas. And more so than most monster books, I tend to take a pretty deep dive into these creatures because there's only 12, and that's actually a pretty low number when it comes to a lot of monster books. Usually we get dozens and dozens of creatures, and this one only just the straight dozen of creatures, but they're all really, really fun, cool ideas, and surprisingly, I was impressed that we had this much ideas, I guess, for a whole nother holiday book. We already had one previously. Also, even though the monsters range in CR from, let's see, what does it say, from half to 14, the majority of them are tier 2 monsters. In fact, I think I wrote down 8 of 12 of them are between CR 4 and 10. I guess tier 2 is technically maybe 5 to 10, so it'd be 7 of the 12. That's over half of them, so that's probably a pretty good ratio given where D&D is played. The original, and I went back and checked it, the original 12 Christmas Sleighs had a lot more higher level creatures. It had like Santa Claus and the Jack Frost equivalent and Krampus, who are all like CR like 17, 18, and 19 or something like that. So you won't see any like huge crazy stat blocks. And yet, actually, I take that back. You will see huge crazy stat blocks. You just won't see high level crazy stat blocks. In fact, my favorite combo might be the Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, and Future. I think literally everybody knows the story of A Christmas Carol and how just cool and interesting it is with the supernatural and the lessons learned and all that. And I think you can convey that to D&D very well. In this case, kind of borrowing from, I'm sure there were other creatures that did this, but I know Auril from Rime of the Frost Maiden uses the idea of forms, which is like almost like a JRPG boss battle where you reduce a creature's hit point, or kind of like the mythic system in Odyssey of Theros, where when you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, I think in that case it just regenerates and then it gains new abilities. In this case, it becomes an entirely new stat block, which is how the Auril forms work, and this is how these creatures work. They just become an entirely different creature. But I also just love these stat blocks. I think they're really fun. They all have unique ways that you can actually defeat the monster. So like with the Ghost of Christmas Past is represented by this flaming candle who's actually holding its own like extinguisher, and if you try to get that away from them, you can then basically snuff them out. Or the Ghost of Christmas Present, you can do like a competitive performance check to try to beat them when it comes to holiday cheer, and then you can defeat them. And each of these, you're being sucked into this, demi-plane, which is smart. It uses the kind of Ravenloft theme of you're getting stuck into this, if it's Christmas past, it's, you're creating a construct of that person's past, and it's all supposed to be very, emotional and deep. Has very fun abilities with them conjuring various creatures that would make sense for their minions, like smoke methods for the fire one, and I believe wraiths for like the future Ghost of Christmas, or sorry, Ghost of Seasons Yet to Come. That's a way better way of saying Ghost of Christmas Futures. But I really like that idea. I think it's really fun, and they've got some really nifty abilities. The Ghost of Seasons Yet to Come, which is the Grim Reaper looking one, has a cool ability where it imprisons somebody like within its own body, like its shroud, and then replaces that person with a specter that looks like the person, but they have chains. And then that person can keep making saves, because 5e definitely allows that. But then other players can either attack the main boss or the specter to try and reduce it to 0 hit point. If the specter gets reduced to 0 hit points, then that does free the person, but half the damage is transferred to them as well. So it's especially useful if you're focusing on one character, like a Christmas Carol story. You can then imprison that person and really make it a memorable event. And I just love the multi-stage boss battle, and flying through all these different. It even explains how the domains of destiny work. Like, just what a cool idea! Like, to take that whole aspect of a Christmas Carol and turn that into some pretty cool stat blocks. So probably my favorite creature right there. Some of these I haven't quite heard of. There was a Grilla. There's some like Snowbane creature that are a little more obscure, although her ability to just have an aura of like, hey, you have to make a save or I control you and turn your alignment evil seems kind of insane. I guess she is CR 13, but yikes, that seems dangerous. The Robin is a really fun character. I don't know, maybe the quite the reference to a Christmas Robin delivering gifts necessarily, but I think it's a fun idea, because not only do we get all these tables of different gifts that can be sent all over the planar universe, but the abilities all have to do with sending out packages, either like dropping them off and turning them into mines that explode, or doing like these slow like missiles almost that explode if they get, like, they have their own hit points and AC and everything, and they just slowly travel towards where they need to go, and then if they get reduced to 0 hit points, they explode on the battlefield. That's just a really interesting dynamic. I haven't really seen that in combat very often. Now, I would have preferred if these had actually had maybe a table of different effects that happen, because packages shouldn't all just explode, but I guess if the Robin gets caught in combat, he's only going to be throwing bombs at you. Santa's mobile factory is a really funny idea. Just, hey, what if Santa created this automated factory on tank treads for some reason? I love the art of these. All of the Hall of Danger stuff has had really, really fun, bright, colorful art, just really clever, that really fits the theme of these funny creatures that are still like, yeah, they're kind of jokey, but the stat blocks are still serious, kind of a thing, which I think is like a perfect tone for D&D also. And I think the art very much reflects that. So I adore the artwork in here. And this one has something I also haven't seen before, which is when it rolls initiative, different things go off. It spawns a bunch of presents. It says medium. It's small and medium presents. The small boxes all contain trinkets, and the medium boxes contain new creatures. So it spawns creatures from a D12 box when it rolls initiative. So you don't even know, and maybe I guess the DM doesn't even know, like, what creatures are going to pop out of this thing. That's a crazy, interesting ability. And then when it's destroyed, it explodes with a bunch of damage, but also trinkets everywhere because it's just full of presents. So that's just a funny, crazy idea to have this mobile factory rolling around. The Sugar Plum Beholder is an actual good-natured beholder. Like, hey, if beholders spawn other beholders by dreaming, maybe occasionally they have nice dreams. I thought they'd maybe go with the ornament angle on this, because I think the classic ornament for a Christmas tree is always the like ball, like the circular or spherical, just shiny ball thing of different colors. But the Sugar Plum, sure, we'll go with that. And half of the rays are naughty rays and half are nice rays. And they do things like giving you buffs and all that. And instead of having the anti-magic cone, it's a sugar rush cone, which is giving everybody haste. So clearly this is a beholder that you want on your side. And as we've also had with the previous Hall of Danger books, all of them have adventure hooks to go with them, which is really, really nice. I do not expect adventure hooks with most monster books. I expect obviously descriptions and hopefully art. I think we should expect art actually with monsters, and of course well balanced, detailed stat blocks. But adventure hooks for every single monster is very nice to have, especially when you don't have that many monsters, and it really helps bring into context the description of the character and just gives the DM some cool ideas of how best to use them. Like in this one, some examples would be that the fact that it can be an ally, which I like a lot of these stat blocks in here, maybe, and young Nicholas to an extent, also the son of Santa Claus, very handsome man here with his bare exposed chest and chest hair, could just be allied NPCs instead of actual combat opportunities or just straight up fights. So I think that's it's a good mixture of those. They don't all need to be just vicious monsters that we're fighting. In fact, a lot of them are probably more fun if they have some kind of social aspect through them or quest aspect where it's not just a random ass monster that we're fighting. So I think these are really fun creatures, really fun ideas, and I was very impressed with just how well there are some new ideas in here that I enjoyed. A few little middling complaints. God, the Feast Centaur is freaking hilarious. A table that gets summoned by like a witch who delivers food is just, I don't know how they came up with this, but the art is absolutely sells it for me with the raw turkey as its head is awesome. There's a few little maybe rules things I have a quibble with, like the 8 tiny reindeer, which is of course the actual literal line from the Night Before Christmas. It's a swarm. It's a gargantuan swarm, which is funny because it's all the reindeer just bunched up together. But I don't think they should probably have the swarming ability where they can occupy another creature's space. I think that's specifically because most swarm creatures are insects, so they crawl over you. I don't think the reindeer are doing that. They're still very much occupying that space. There was something about the Ghost of Christmas Present can like catch different objects coming at him. It says he can, as a reaction, throw it back. So that probably needs to be under reactions rather than action. And I think I had one complaint about the Feast Centaur. I think these D20 tables probably should not have been actually embedded in the stat block and just been included as a different area somewhere. Just it looks weird to have tables within the stat block. I'm sure there's precedent for that, but it looked kind of odd for me. But these are very, very minor quibbles overall. Also, notice how we get legendary actions for most of these creatures, which is actually a staple of also the Hall of Danger monster stat books. Is they are fans of legendary actions, as am I, not just for high level creatures where it's obvious to put them, but also just medium and even low level creatures, because sometimes you just want to use anything for a boss, and depending on what level your players are, anything can be a boss, especially if you add legendary actions. But you need those actions in order to help with the action economy on the DM's side of the ball. So I enjoy having legendary actions for those monsters, and that will lead us to our pros and cons for 12 more Christmas sleighs. Pro, though creatures have legendary actions, yay, as I just said. Pro, it has a dozen interesting, cleverly designed creatures. Honestly, I really enjoy most of these creatures. There's a lot of standouts, which I already went over, but I was really impressed by just how we came up with another dozen creatures for a seasonal book that I already really loved and felt like we had explored a lot of, like mined a lot of the obvious, choices, and yet still came back with another 12 good creature ideas. So that's really fun to see. Pro, delightful original artwork for each monster and multiple adventure hook ideas for each entry. I mean, I can basically just copy my pros from the previous Hall of Danger books because that's the kind of quality that I've come to expect, and I really enjoy that. I guess we could have used a better sidebar here formatting. I would have preferred if this was like colored in as a different color, maybe. It's all very nitpicky stuff that I've got. I love the art. I love the page, the holly and stuff. That looks amazing. Maybe just do the adventure hooks as a kind of a different colored sidebar would have looked a little bit better with some different font. But again, that's very nitpicky stuff, and overall it's just absolutely fantastic to the point where I just don't have any real cons to say. Like it's a fabulous book. It's a great sequel and follow-up to the original 12 Christmas Sleighs, so much that I think this is my favorite one since the original one. I don't know if I like it more than the original. I'd have to go back and see that one, and I have no interest in necessarily ranking them all right now, although I think I might have done that when I did the 3 reviews pretty quickly together. Was it last year? I think I did all those. But I think I like this one more than all the other non-Christmas seasonal books, and maybe that's just because, again, the strength of theme is there, right? I think we share in a lot of the different characters and the ideas and the caricatures of different things. I think it just lends itself to being the better book if you already start on the holiday theme. But because all these creatures that are chosen have been really fun ideas, and not just we'll just throw these creatures up there, but the stat blocks are really, really interesting and do different interesting things that also feel decently well balanced for somebody that's obviously not running these creatures at the moment. I'm just looking at them on the paper, but I'm still very impressed with what this book brings to the table, the feast holiday table, if you will. So final verdict, far from an unnecessary sequel, 12 More Christmas Sleighs is every bit as punny and clever as the original, with another batch of wonderfully fun, interestingly designed creatures ready for the holiday season. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews and follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel, and you can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. Thank you.